brothers and sisters? It's your brother G World 7_D. Now, I have this book again, The Black Rulers, Military Leaders, Clergy, and Moors Who Saved Medieval Europe. Now, on this cover is Philip II, the son of Charles I, or Charles V from Spain. Right, I'm going to go and pull him up. I'm going to show you Charles V. Now, I've pulled this book out before. Alright. Here's Charles V. Obviously, you can see this in Negro, so when you look at these goofy-ass Hollywood movies, we try to portray him as white, just laugh. I want to read you something real quick, and then I'm gonna connect the dots to a lot of things. Okay? Here it is. Let me get it clear. The blue blood is black blood. Charles V, from 1500 to 1558, succeeded as ruler of the Holy Roman Empire, and reigned from 1519 to 1556 when he abdicated to Ferdinand I, his youngest brother and son Philip II. Charles V ruled over an extensive domain that encompassed Central, Western, and Southern Europe, as well as the Spanish Empire in Americas and Asia. He devoted much of his rule to winning the Italian wars against France that were enormously expensive but militarily successful. Charles V was the best known for opposing the Protestant Reformation, the medium to overthrow black rule by white insurgents. Charles V was best known for opposing the Protestant Reformation, the medium to overthrow black rule by white insurgents. He oversaw the Spanish colonization of the Americas, including the conquest of the Aztec Empire. Aztecs were Negroes anyway, right? And this is his son. And I showed you who the hell he was, right? Now I'm going to go to a encyclopedia. That book was written by a black man. This encyclopedia was not written by nobody black, all right? Those getting kind of stuffed up, all right? Now let me pull this down. We go to here. This is Florida. Let's see. Alright, we got to Florida. And I just showed you Charles V. Right? We go to Florida. Let me get a good image. The history of Florida. Clear. The history of Florida. Let me get it very clear. The history of Florida. Florida was discovered in 1513 by Ponce de Leon. Most of its cities, however, owed their development to the extension of the railroads in the 1880s. Many cities have sprung up since 1900 from swamps or on coral rocks and sandbars. The following sections tell the history of Florida to the present time. Spaniards and Huguenots. In 1526, Charles V, as Charles I of Spain, granted a tract in Florida to Panfilo de Narvaez. He reached Tampa Bay with about 400 men in 1528. For months they trampled through forests and swamps until they reached what is now St. Mark's. There they waited in vain for supply ships. Hoping to reach Mexico, they built boats and sailed away. But a Gulf storm destroyed Narvaez and most of his men. Soon after this, Charles V made Hernando de Soto governor of the new province. Now, these are Negroes, man. I showed you Charles V, and I showed you a picture of Hernando de Soto. He was either a light-skinned Negro or a mixed Negro, but he was a Negro. In 1539, De Soto sailed into Tampa Bay with 700 men. From here, he set out on a historic expedition through Florida into Georgia and Alabama to the Mississippi River. Alright, and I'm going to skip down. I'm not going to read all of it. Pensacola was founded in 1698. For the next 150 years, the Spaniards quarreled with the English colonists in the Carolinas and Georgia. By a treaty in 1763, Spain gave up Florida to England and received Havana. The British divided Florida into two provinces, East and West Florida. During the Revolutionary War, Spain declared war on England and sent an expedition against Florida. In 1783, England was forced to return Florida to Spain. The United States and Spain disputed the boundary in West Florida until, by the Adams-Onis Treaty, 1819-21, Spain ceded all Florida. In return, the United States gave up its claims to Texas. In 1822, Florida was organized as a territory. Most of the Seminole Indians were forced to accept land in the West at the conclusion of 7 years of warfare, 1835 to 1842. Florida entered the Union as a state in 1845, but seceded to join the Confederacy in 1861. It was readmitted to the Union in 1868. I'm going to stop right there. I read that. My main emphasis is to show you there was various different types of Negroes. I've already said this over. That was here in the Americas. I'm going to go back again. I talked about Charles I, right? I showed you Charles I already. I showed you that Negro Charles I. Here he goes again. So that shows you that Spain was still ruled by Negroes after 1492. You still had Negroes in power. And I showed you pictures before of De Soto being a Negro himself. And I talked about is that if Columbus ever existed, he was a Moor. So this information that I'm giving you is nothing new. This is old information. But white scholars have distorted and lied about history constantly. So you had Negroes over here in Americas. So your 13 original colonies were originally founded or set up by Negroes. So you had Aboriginal Negroes over here, and then you had them European Negroes over here. So when people tell you that your history started on a slave ship, that most of us came over a slave ship, that's a goddamn lie. The information is right there. And I just showed you, and I read something, a book written by a black man. Then I got the encyclopedia. This is from the 60s. That was obviously written by some white folks. See, they won't get in depth and show you the pictures of Charles V being a Negro. They'll just try to portray him as a white man. But when you do the research, you'll see that he was a Negro. And a lot of those Negroes were expelled out of Europe and they came over here to the Americas. But see, some of you Negroes want to believe that you slaves from Africa. Even with the Geechee. And I'm constantly talking about those damn names. Those damn names sound so similar in the southeast because there's not, and they go into the north too, but they're not the same. Excuse me. Those names sound the same because those are the same damn people broken up into different nations. These were Aboriginal Negroes who were already here. These weren't no descendants of no damn African slaves. You had a few so-called Africans who amalgamated with the Aboriginal blacks, but they were absorbed because of the more Aboriginal blacks that were here and the European Negro that was here. So what I'm telling you is not new information. This is old information. This is basic information, but you should know. So when you hear Umar Johnson, and when you hear that goofball, this one goofball chick, and I don't even bring up her name. She's out in the West Coast. She's so goddamn goofy. She don't know what the hell she's talking about. She had this African worship nonsense that all so-called Negroes are African. When you get to people like that, they are sellouts because they have not done no research. They've been educated by white folks, trained by white folks, and all they do is spitting out nonsense that white folks had given to them through the crack of their asses. I'm telling you, man, do your research and the information is there, brothers and sisters. I just broke it down in a simple. Got the book by the black man and got the encyclopedia by the white man. The information's there, But you're going to want to have to seek it. Stop listening to these Amon-Ra Squad clowns. Stop listening to Sarasu Seti. Stop listening to these idiots because they're not teaching you nothing. They're telling you that you're a slave from Africa. They want to make everything African instead of you identifying who you are in the area that you're from, taking pride in your ancestors, and taking pride in your accomplishments. But instead, these fools want you to identify as African and give all your accomplishments away to some place thousands of miles away. Believing that old fake ass Wakanda nonsense. I'm telling you, man, learn your true history. Learn your true history. Stop listening to these Negroes. Stop listening to these Negras. They're not getting you anywhere. They're not going to get you anywhere. You're not a descendant of slaves from Africa. I'm going to repeat this again. You're not descendants from slaves from Africa. There's so-called black people that are around the world. They want to basically limit you in saying that all black people come from Africa, or all black people just African. When so-called black people built monumental structures, great architectural structures globally. It wasn't just in Africa. They did it in Europe with all the castles. They built all those structures in all through Asia and the Pacific, and they did the greatest civilizations here in the Americas. This is why I want a lot of you to stop this mess that you're descendant of African slave. Oh, I took my DNA test and I'm Cameroonian. You a fool, because there was no such thing as a Cameroon or a Nigerian. They're brainwashing you to think that you're not from here and to say that you're from somewhere else when you are from here. Learn your true history. Learn who the hell you really are. Stop listening to these foreigners tell you who you are. Peace and love, brothers and sisters.